Okay, and for that, let's start with this pole. And to understand that, let me take a digression and explain about this factor. Some of you might know it already. So let us say you have a voltage amplifier with a gain of -A. If I call this a voltage amplifier, what kind of control source I am talking about? Voltage control? Voltage source. Okay. So now let us say I have a capacitor, or for that matter you can have any impedance across this fellow. And let us say you try to find the effective impedance looking here, right? So let us say you apply a test voltage and then you try to find the test current. So if this voltage is Vt of S, what can you say about this voltage? Exactly -A times Vt of S. It's an ideal voltage amplifier. Its gain is constant versus frequency. So this is -A times Vt of S. So then can you tell me what is It of S? Yeah, this is Vt minus this fellow times SCC. So that will be Vt of S times 1 plus A. I'll just change it and say it's C times S. So now looks like, looking in, the input is an effective capacitance. And what is the capacitance value? 1 plus A times A. So which means now you can replace this capacitor. Now we can reflect it to the input side, and when you reflect it to the input side, the effective capacitance you have is C into 1 plus A. Okay. Is this clear? When I find the input impedance, I am finding the impedance with respect to ground, remember, right? So that's what I have done. And what is this effect called? If you have already seen this, if you have seen this, this is called the Miller effect. Now the second part of this Miller effect is this, when you can argue the same way from the output side. So let us say, I don't know, this voltage is say some V1, which means this voltage is minus V1 by A. So which means the current flowing this way is what? It's V1 into 1 plus 1 by A times SC. So you can argue that from the output side, it looks like you have a capacitance of C into 1 plus 1 by A. But of course, this is not very useful because this is a what kind of control source? Voltage control, voltage source. I don't care what I put at the output, the voltage is the same. Right? So that way, this is not that useful, whereas this is more useful. But let's look at the circuit now. Is this clear? Sorry? This one, right? Correct. No, I told it's not really useful because this is a voltage source. It doesn't matter what load you have at the output, right? So that way, even if the capacitor is an elephant, doesn't matter. The voltage source is keeping the voltage same. That's why I'm saying it is not that useful, but of course, to be correct, this is what you should. I mean, in fact, this Miller theorem you can apply for any two nodes. It doesn't have to be a voltage amplifier. If you know the transfer function between two nodes, you can do that. That's okay. Let's not get there. But anyways, now let's try to make sense of what we have. Let me copy the circuit. Remember, the Miller effect we saw was with respect to what kind of control source? VCCS. But what kind of control source I have here? Okay. So in a VCCS, what is fixed by the control source? Voltage or current? So here, only the relation from this input voltage to the output current is fixed by the control source. Right? But for you to apply the Miller effect, you need to know the exact voltage gain from this point to this point. That is not known to you. You just know what is the current, that is Gm times or minus Gm times this voltage. The voltage here depends on what is the effective load connected here, and that includes this fellow as well as this fellow, right? So which means using Miller effect here is not possible exactly. Is that point clear? But we are engineers, we never take no for an answer. So again, what we do is make an approximation, and that's typically referred to as Miller approximation. The approximation is the following. Let us say I look at low frequencies. If I look at very low frequencies, what can you tell about the capacitors here? They are open circuit. So for low frequencies, these fellows are open, which means what can I say about the voltage gain from the input to the output? I mean, if the capacitors are not there, wait, maybe I'll make it more apparent. The capacitors are not there. Now what is the gain from the input here to the output? I mean, okay, let's say the transconductor is GM1. Yeah, I mean, okay, it's inverted, so let's say take the magnitude alone, it is GM1 times. At low frequencies, you can approximate this, okay. So which means at low frequencies alone, I can use the Miller effect and say that this capacitor can be referred to the input with the capacitance times the gain. Is that clear? So which means I can redraw the circuit. So this is RS C1. So this capacitor will be reflected at the input side, and after reflecting, the capacitance value will become C into, what is the value? 1 plus GM1 times R. And then you have the OTA here. So now you see that you have removed this coupling capacitor C. You have nicely isolated RC section here. So which means you can write the pole location. But again, this pole location will be approximate because we are making an approximation. Is that fine? Yes. The output will be?
Output is the current here. And the component of the C at output will be.
No, we'll come to that. Let's only focus on this. As of now, I just know that at the input side I can do it. Again, remember I'm making an approximation. The approximation is because I'm looking at low frequencies. So whatever calculations I do here must be for low frequencies, right? So which means what is the pole location here approximately now? GS by the total capacitance, total conductance, that's it, okay? So this is C1 plus C into 1 plus GM1 R naught. So we'll come back to what you told in a moment, okay? Let's now compare the expression we had from the quadratic equation. So this is what I had. So, oops. Now let's try to compare. I have GS, C1 times, sorry, C1 plus C into 1 plus GM R naught. Of course, I have an additional term here. You can attribute it to multiple reasons. Firstly, this itself is approximate. And to start with, even the pole locations were approximate, right? Because we took it as ratios of polynomials. So all of them contribute to that. But for all practical purposes, this is the most, I mean, this approximation for the pole is very good. But again, remember, as an engineer, we have made the approximation. You want to be good or bad? Which means, I mean, you guys obviously want to be good engineers. I'm not taking it no for an answer. So which means let's make sure if the approximation we did is fine. And the approximation was we looked at low frequencies, which means this should be a low frequency pole or a high frequency pole. If this were a low frequency pole, then we are okay, right? And yeah, and if you already computed here, we already saw that this P1 is a low frequency pole. So which means the assumption or the approximation we made was okay, right? Yeah, that is again the idea is As long as you can say that the gain from this node to this node is approximately GM1 or not, those are categorized as low frequencies for now. Right? I'm not doing very exact analysis, but I guess the idea is fine, basic idea, right?